Welcome to Backstage with Geoffrey Morrissey. I'm your host, Geoffrey Morrissey. We're at the Great Scott with an artist who has a new name, a new label, but still great music, Trevor Powers. Trevor, how are you today?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm doing well. I just heard that you were staying at a castle, which is exciting news.
Yes.
And fitting because you're coming to the end of your first solo tour, correct me if I'm wrong, or first tour under this name, I should say.
Tour under my name, yeah.
Tour to your name. I know that you're interested to see how this album, Mulberry Violence, translated live. How has it been going so far? Have there been any sort of things that have surprised you about how the album's been play live?
No surprises too much, mostly because we did so much preparation before tour started.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of work being able to translate it and figure out how to do it. But since the shows have started, it's been relatively smooth.
Mm-hmm. What was the song that was giving you the most trouble in that sort of trial period?
They were all pretty similar in the sense of once we started figuring out a way we were going to attack them,
mm-hmm.
then it started clicking into place. But I would say the first 3 or 4, that was the hardship, where it was like, oh, we think we had a plan, or we thought we had a plan, and then it did not work out. And so it was just lots and lots of trial and error.
I'm going to talk about that first song, right? XTQ Idol. Opens with the lines, "I don't care," which is just such an interesting way to start an album, especially a project that I feel like is the one that you've cared the most about. Why open the album that way?
I honestly just did what felt right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way a lot of my music goes, is I'm acting on impulse. I'm acting on what feels right in that moment. And I don't think about why until situations like this, when I'm talking about it. And it's cool because then it gives me an opportunity to learn about myself, because there's so many things that we do as human beings that you don't analyze it first, you just do it.
Yeah. Well, and as you sort of sit back and you look at, was there one thing that sort of you might have thought was right to do, an impulse that you followed previously, that now that you have been doing this for almost a decade could sort of look and go, oh, I wish I had changed that, or something along those lines?
Honestly, no. Anything that I've done out of impulse, those are the decisions that I generally regret the least.
Really? Huh.
Within music.
Within music. I was just going to say, yeah.
Just to clarify, within music. Within art, anything that I'm expressing that feels very natural and I'm following that instinct, then generally I don't have any regrets.
Well, good. That's what we like to hear. The last verse of that song, XTQ Idol, it reminded me almost of sort of like the quote that you get to Billboard in terms of killing Youth Lagoon and sort of moving on from that period in your life. When you think about that, what was the toughest thing about that project to move on from, or to sort of the toughest aspect of that to kill, for lack of better words?
It honestly didn't feel tough for me because I knew it was the right decision, and it wasn't the kind of situation of a artist going solo by any means, because Youth Lagoon was always my thing too, and it wasn't meant to continue. It was always supposed to be a period piece. It was supposed to be a reflection on my childhood years and a reflection on the past, and once I felt like I had said enough through that filter, because it was a filter, then I knew that I had to put a lid on that bottle and open up a new one. And I didn't have any. That was one of those too where, even though I can't say it was it definitely wasn't impulsive, because I thought about it a lot, but it was the kind of thing where I would have regretted not doing it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And I love that idea of sort of like a filter on your music, because I mean, all artists have different periods of, especially if you've been making music for a long time, of similar periods, and then they move on to sort of a different direction. Could you ever see yourself using another filter in some sort of way?
I would never write it off, but the beauty of going under my own name is I felt like that has the widest spectrum to be able to say whatever I want to through music and get away with it. Because I love evolution. I love the idea of constantly channeling different corners of who I am as a person, and there's no better way, at least in terms to myself, to do that than under my own name. There's something about a project name that it's much easier for people to say, oh, this doesn't sound like so-and-so, this doesn't sound like so-and-so, but there's when you go by your birth name, no matter what I do, it's going to be me.
Exactly. And that must be empowering to some extent, too.
It is very empowering, yeah.
I sort of like something that you said there, that it was a filter of looking at things through youth. So it strikes me now that, sort of by definition, you must be getting inspiration from the present now. Has that been any sort of shift in terms of looking towards either the future or the current moment for inspiration as opposed to the past?
I mean, mostly I'm trying to analyze everything rather than just because I will always pull from the past, just like any artist will pull from their own situations or situations of people that they spend time with, that they're around. But it's not just the past, it's the present and the future, like what you said. And so with Mulberry Violence and with this project as a whole, it's way more into the idea of not having filters and letting anything that makes its way to me that feels right, acting on that and processing that through what I'm creating.
There you go. That sounds great to me. And I want to read you and the listeners some lyrics from Dice Game. Finally, I accept myself, flawed, with nothing figured out. Which, what a beautiful sentiment, beautiful couple lines there.
Thank you so much.
How did this, it was sort of writing this album, creating this album, Mulberry Violence, how did it lead you to that, not conclusion, but to that sort of thought and sentiment? How did that album help you on that journey of finding yourself?
Well, that line was written on a long walk, and that was one of those that I was so stuck on what that line needed to be, and then finally that part came to me, and so I wrote it down on my phone. I pulled out my phone, the notes, and wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. But it does have a lot to say in terms of my entire creative process and the fact of being someone that is so flawed, like everyone, where you have all these things that you constantly have to work on in your life, and you're trying to be the best person that you can. And music is my way of it's always been this, where it's a journal. It's a journal in a very metaphorical sense. It's not always blatant on what I'm talking about, at least in terms of the way other people view it, but to me it's blatant. And there's certain lines that come across a little more plain on what I mean, and that was one of those.
Yeah, totally. And when I listened to this album, I was trying to like sort of jot down some themes that I had heard, and it got to the point where there were so many that like it didn't make sense to ask just about one. But I'm sure people come up to you after the show every night and they bring something up, you know, that they heard on the record. Has there been anything that you're surprised, like, I'm surprised people haven't picked up on that? Or, you know, I thought a lot more people were going to be asking me about this, sort of themes or things that people aren't picking up on about the record?
Not too much, honestly. There's been so many different questions that I haven't been expecting, and a lot of that comes back to what I was saying earlier about with my process, not thinking about why I'm making the decisions that I'm making and just making them within the music. I think that's why there's been so many surprises. To me, any question, or at least most questions, there's that sense of, oh, I haven't thought about it that way. And it's good for me because then I'm constantly learning about myself.
Has that always been sort of your MO, not overthinking things and not going with impulse, or was there a certain point where you got to where you're like, I could think about this all day and I'm just, you know, not?
I definitely wouldn't say that's always been the way that I view things, but it's definitely become more and more that way the older that I get. And I'm not sure why that is, but it definitely lends a hand toward helping the music. Because when I do think about something so much, it's easy for me to strangle that idea to where what could have been an amazing idea very quickly gets destroyed because of overthinking.
That's true, and well, I would encourage anyone, if you're having trouble following your gut or thinking it's not going to be the right choice, listen to the album Mulberry Violence by Trevor Powers. You'll see that it does pay off to listen to your gut because it's a great record. I know that you have a show to play and quite a few things to do tonight, so I'll make this my last question for you. Who are you listening to right now? Who's been spinning on the way to the castle, on the way to all the different tour stops?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Kate Bush, massive fan of Kate Bush, so lots of her music. The new Nine Inch Nails. On Bad Witch. Have you listened to that?
I haven't, but I've been spending far too much time at the Wang Theater in Boston, and I see their ads all the time.
Okay. It's so good. And I've always been a Nine Inch Nails fan, but there's something about that album that hits me in all the right ways. Older music, like I'm also a huge fan of Harold Budd, some of his early stuff, Brian Eno, Laurie Anderson. I listen to almost anything as long as it is something that I feel like is pushing me towards a creative direction, opening up those different corners in my brain.
Are you someone who intentionally tries to listen to music or not tries to listen to music when you're creating?
I would say I definitely seek it out. I'm seeking out things that will create sparks within my brain, whether it be music or film or conversations, all of it, I seek it out.
There you go. Well, seek out Mulberry Violence. It's a beautiful album. The creator of that, Trevor, has been with me today. Thank you so much for the time, Trevor.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.